Yeah, it's like, hey kid, can you just go and like do your own thing?
Yeah, don't you have a novel to write?
Go and become precocious. Go and amuse yourself, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go and make some viral videos. Make your daddy rich.
Yeah. Unbox something.
I mean, I've definitely seen like little, puff piece articles where they're like, this 8-year-old child has $21 million because he's big on YouTube. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I mean, part of me is disgusted, but a part of me is just
Mm.
deeply envious, frankly.
Yeah, exactly. And they don't do anything of note. These aren't especially talented kids.
No, yeah, it's not like a kid who, is like an amazing ballet dancer or, a
Mm.
soprano singer or something. Like,
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think you could do it today. I think these kids just got in at the right time.
I've definitely been around children who watch videos of other children doing really mundane things, like
My kids
videos
do
where
it.
it's just like a dad who's just like got their kid there and they're like, hey, we're going
Mm.
to go through the new Thomas the Tank Engine toys. And then you just like cut
Yeah.
to the kid's reaction. And it's like, is this interesting for you, buddy? You like this? Anyway, this will be our day for joyful distraction, Dan Hall, because welcome to Reanimates.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm overjoyed to be talking about Jeffrey Combs in the middle of a lockdown because what better thing to distract ourselves with than horror films? So the film of which we speak is Dark House from 2009. I mean, I know that it's based on something in the film, but what a terrible name for a film.
It's such a bad title. And it is based on something in the film. It's also a bad name for that.
Yeah.
So it's like bad names all the way down. What it feels like is a title that is on the poster for a fake film in a movie or TV show where the props department had to quickly whip up some posters because they like couldn't afford the rights to use real movies. So it's a poster for Dark House that's next to a poster for like you know, nice love. It's just got like a couple kissing.
yeah, and
Like
next
it'll do.
to
It'll probably be out of focus anyway. It'll do. Adventure place.
Forest Story, Wolf Boy. Actually, that's a great idea. I'm taking that one. So, Dark House, written and directed by Darren Scott, based on a story by Kerry Douglas Dye. Darren Scott was a producer on the 1994 Jeffrey Combs vehicle Love in a 45, which, if anyone out there hasn't seen it and you're a Combs fan, I thoroughly recommend it. The movie's fine, but his character, phenomenal, absolute favorite. Jeff has also popped up in some of Darren's other work. He has a couple of bit parts in the 2012 TV series Femme Fatales and 1998's Caught Up. Darren also wrote a couple of episodes of Pandora, which Jeffrey also guest starred in.
What is interesting about what you just said is that Darren Scott was an active producer in 1994, if I heard the dates correctly,
Yes.
for Love at a 45. This feels, Dark House, which was produced in 2009, feels very much like a 21-year-old's first movie. So I'm having to do some mental reshuffling of what my image of Darren Scott is.
I assume that that's just a facet of working within a low budget, is that you might have big ideas that you can't actually bring to the screen, and sometimes when you do, they don't come out as well as you wanted, and that's just a function of low budget indie filmmaking.
Yeah, and it may just be that so many early career or aspiring filmmakers will make a low budget horror. Like that's a bit of a trope that if you do see a low budget horror, your mind immediately snaps to that.
I would never decry a film simply for being low budget in and of itself, because there are so many good low budget movies. I mean,
the ones that break through that, that really work can like really work almost because they're low budget, because the filmmakers had to be a bit clever and work around the constraints. So it's certainly not, low budget in and of itself doesn't write a movie off.
I think that there's a lot of good ideas in this film, and I think that there was some that were executed a lot better than others. But I think that the difference between a good low budget film and a bad low budget film is A, ideas, B, execution, and C, passion, because you can really tell when a film has no love in it. And I wouldn't say this movie has no love in it, but I would definitely say that there were some choices that were made that seemed strange. Well, not a huge amount of interesting IMDb trivia, but one, and you do have to take IMDb trivia with a possible grain of salt, but if this is true, it really feels accurate. Apparently, the script was written in 13 days.
I believe that.
Yeah, it fucking feels like it, doesn't it, eh?
13, lucky number.
Unlucky for some. Also, I don't know what this means because I'm not in the filmmaking industry, and it's something that I've always noticed in different films, but there's a lot of it in this. But
Okay.
a lot of the people involved in this are credited under different names. R.A. Mihailov plays the butcher later. He is credited as R.A. Mahalov.
With a slightly different spelling.
Yeah, so but there's a lot of that in these credits. Sure. Is that literally just a case of the people who do the credits misspell someone's name?
I'm going to lay a theory on you. Could be way off base. This is off the top of my head, prompted by what you were just saying.
Yeah, go on.
That the nature of a low-budget independent horror movie means you are going to cast a lot of people who are very early in their careers and may not yet have joined a professional actors union. When they do so, they may have to change the name under which they are registered very slightly if someone else has the same name. Like a person had previously joined, say, SAG, the Screen Actors Guild in the States. So it may be a matter of someone, their first couple of roles being credited under a certain name, having to change it slightly when they join the guild, because my understanding is that SAG doesn't like double ups.
I think that's why Michael J. Fox uses the J. I think that I think that I recall that factoid.
Yep, and there's a lot of middle names that wouldn't otherwise be used, things like that.
So we open with one of the cheapest shots in the movie, which I don't think is fair, but because it does get better from here, but this doesn't set you up for really high expectations.
You're talking about the opening credits?
Yes, so we're talking about a sweet child's voice reciting the Lord's Prayer over footage of children's toys. This is very obviously shot in what looks like a black box theater or some sort of warehouse.
Or like possibly the boot of a car.
And we know something bad happens in the film because there's a sudden scream and the dolls get covered with, I want to say blood. It looks like soy sauce, but it's blood.
Blood in quotes. It does not behave like blood. It's very watery, very drippy. And I've heard that blood is thicker than water.
I think I've heard that as well. I don't remember where.
Yeah. Our
opening sequence after the credit sequence is 14 years ago. There's these three sweet young girls. They're riding their bikes down the road towards a big, but not at all spooky looking house.
Yeah, it's just big.
Yeah, and there's like several different characters in this film who are all freaked out by the sight of this house. It's a perfectly nice looking house.
It looks like some of the houses that I lived near when I was in Kensington, the suburb of Melbourne, just because there's a lot of old houses that are like a bit tall and have a pointy thing at the top.
I would say it's a slightly fancy suburb of Melbourne.
Yeah, well, I'm a fancy man.
You bougie bitch.
Here's what's interesting about that. The very first thing that we see after the opening credits, 14 years ago, we have not been situated in time at that point in the film. We can only assume that this is 14 years before those dolls were covered in blood.
Yeah, one of the little girls says, "My mother says that's where the weird kids live," and then rough. Another one corrects her saying that it's where a bunch of foster kids live.
Yeah, so that first girl's mum, what a turd.
Yeah, what a bitch. Oh yeah, they're so weird. They don't even have a nuclear family. Another of the girls says it's one of the scariest houses she's ever seen. And again, I cannot stress to you that this is a very normal, very nice looking house.
That girl has just not seen a lot of houses.
It's not even like a dark color. Like it's not even like it's a brown brick. It's like beautiful white house with like purple.
If there's one thing you want in a film called Dark House, it's gonna be a dark house.
God, you'd think so. You would think that they would have at least chosen a house that was gothic in some way. Well, as far as I can tell in my research, it I think was filmed at a place called the Platt Building, which is in Canoga Park in Los Angeles. So if you Google image search that, dear listener, you will get an idea of this perfectly nice looking house. One girl decides to go into the house. It's very much a To Kill a Mockingbird situation where they're all scared of the house, and it's like, yeah, you go.
And then much of the rest of the film concerns a trial.
It's a really upsetting trial, very socially aware, very politically relevant. She goes into the house and immediately sees just a whole bunch of dead children.
And keeps going. Does not seem phased.
Yeah, she doesn't like back out scared. Like she really wants to explore.
Like, I am a child. Clearly there has been, possibly still is, a child murderer here. I'm going to take my chances. Yeah, let's have a wander. Let's have a little look-see.
And they really are everywhere. They're all over the house, very obviously murdered. It's a very unpleasant scene, especially if you have children. It's probably quite jarring and upsetting to see straight away.
And confirm.
Yes. Yeah, it was only when I rewatched it that I thought, maybe I shouldn't have given Dan this one.
Yeah, you haven't given me, like, Room starring Brie Larson to review.
Oh, that is a good one, though. If only Jeffrey Combs was in that. But as we know, I only watch Jeffrey Combs films now.
You're a Combsiac.
So we see an adult woman who we learn is Mrs. DeRode. She's the foster mother. She's covered in blood. And
she's Miss Hannigan.
Yes, she's terrifying. She's got her hands in the in-sink garbage disposal thing, which is like actually one of the things I really liked about this movie is some of the scenes are actually quite creepy and upsetting in like a genuine way and not just like a B-movie way. Like the way that she's just standing there forcing her hands into this garbage disposal is actually pretty upsetting.
It's also a good one for a low-budget horror movie because it's relatively easy to stage and shoot. Like, you're not seeing her, like, bits of her hand fly off or anything. It's just in a drain.
I don't know. I mean, Americans listening may think this is strange, but I actually don't think that those in-sink garbage disposal things are very common here in Australia. I don't know.
We had one when I was a kid, so I think there may have been, like, a bit of a trend for them because my parents were very excited to get it because other families had it, but I think that's a trend that died out.
Yeah, I don't know anyone that has one now, but I always thought they were super fancy when I was a kid. Like, to me, it was a sign of a very, very middle-class family that had them, which I was absolutely not. I do remember that my first boyfriend's family had one, and it was called an Insinkerator.
Oh, yeah. That was ours, the Insinkerator.
And she's so relatively calm as well as she just obliterates her fucking hands. It really sets you up to be terrified of this character in the rest of the film, which you do. So when we cut to 14 years later, I guess.
One assumes.
Yes, the present day. We see what we assume is the same girl who's now an adult. This is Claire, played by Megan Ori. She's on lots of medication and has lots of dolls in her house.
Yes.
We don't go back to her house again after this scene, but that was definitely something I thought was strange in the set design, was that they would give this character lots of strangely arranged Barbie dolls.
In very particular positions and scenarios. She's taken some time with these dolls.
There's some that are like on the wall in frames, like coming out of picture frames. It's really fucking weird. Yeah. We eventually cut to Claire in therapy, and the therapist wants her to visit the spooky house to unlock her repressed memories.
Yeah, this guy doesn't seem very good.
No, he's also a dick to her at the start. He's like, oh, you know that you always fuck around with these therapy sessions. It's like, is that duty of care? I don't think it is. I don't think that's helpful.
No.
Yeah, but she's never been able to go back to the house. We meet the rest of our cast in the next scene, which is Claire's acting class. She's a wannabe actor.
Yeah, so I want to point out that we go from therapy session where two characters just lay out everything that's going on with the protagonist in very plain terms to this acting class where they do some kind of authenticity-based exercise where the characters all just lay out in very plain terms what's going on with each other, you know, in alignment with that famous screenwriting principle of always tell and never show.
Acting classes have acting exercises where you have banter back and forth, but presumably these actors have met each other before and know enough about each other that they don't have to unearth new information. In this scene, we meet an absolute cavalcade of movie stereotypes. Like, I'm going to run through them really quickly because they're a bit fucking tedious, as this scene is. But so we've got Bruce. He's our cocky white guy, the young skater-looking punk. He's kind of the gawky comedy relief, I guess. He's played by Ryan Melander. We've got Eldon. So he's a smart guy, and that's a point of novelty in the film, which I really hated. He's played by Danso Gordon, and quite well, I would say. We've also got Rudy, our shitty white guy, played by Matt Cohen, who has a crush on Claire for whatever fucking reason. Like, it's not important, apart from really pissing off the next character, Ariel, played by Bevan Prince, who's, I guess, just meant to be our, like, Valley Girl slut, I guess. Like,
yeah, I guess she's that Harmony from Buffy, blonde, perky, a bit dumb, sort of. It's a stereotype we've all seen before a million times.
I will also say that I don't know who writes trivia on IMDb pages. I don't know if that's written by the actor themselves or their management or just fans or whatever. But her trivia on her IMDb page reads like a dating profile. So her trivia reads, from Cary, North Carolina, graduated from UNCW's Film Studies program. She has one sister. She loves spending time with her dog. A member of the 2002-2003 UNC Wilmington Seahawk dance team, and enjoys listening to music, dancing, water skiing, and tubing. Everybody meet Bevan.
Tubing?
Yeah, I don't know what tubing means.
Tubing. The thing where you put like tasty tubes on the end of your fingers before you eat them.
Oh, R.I.P. Tasty Tubes. Bring them back.
R.I.P. TTs.
Our last character in the Benetton ad of movie stereotypes is Lily, who is just a goth, very cynical, sarcastic Daria type, played by Shelley Cole.
Our veritable breakfast club of actors.
So this is the clip that I wanted to talk about of the acting exercises where Rudy is giving Eldon shit about not being a proper black guy, and it fucking drove me crazy because it was so... And this sentiment pops up a couple more times in the movie. Like, they're not just being like, oh, you're a fucking nerd, like they would with a nerd character, but they're also like, why aren't you black enough? Anyway, this is insane. So this is what it sounds like.
What kind of black guy plays chess and watches PBS?
Thoughtful and intelligent kind?
Right.
Why do you feel the need to stereotype me?
Well, I just think it's nuts that I'm more into basketball and rap than you. Are you overcompensating because you grew up in a white area?
I've never thought about it. Are you overcompensating because you play sports with the Browns?
Possibly. I mean, don't you think it's time you start dating sisters for once?
They don't like me. Now, isn't the only reason why you're acting because you tore up your fucking knee and you can't play football anymore?
Damn right. You think you're actually going to be the next Denzel or Will Smith?
Why are you coming down so hard on me, man?
I'm just playing a game. I got love for you.
And they hug at the end of that whole thing. So are we meant to be like, they're just friends who josh each other? That's okay.
Yeah, it seems like genuine hostility. Film wants us to accept it as like banter? I don't know.
Being an actor means being mean to people. Yeah, Ariel is also, she's wearing the most 2009 outfit in the world. I'll take some screen caps and put them on the socials.
Rudy and Claire are supposedly a kind of will they, won't they? He likes her. It's not made clear whether she likes him. They literally never interact. We get no sense of like their dynamic.
Importantly, during this acting class, it is interrupted by Jeffrey Combs. Yay! He plays Wollston Ray, who calls himself both the King of Horror Haunts and the Professor of Fear in like 10 seconds. He also has a purely aesthetic cane, so we know he's a fancy eccentric. Wollston bombards into this acting class because he desperately needs students, acting students, for a job.
Yes.
So he's a, I don't know what you'd call it, someone who runs theatrical type attractions.
Yes, he owns and operates a series of haunted houses.
Yes, not real haunted houses, just...
Haunted house attractions, yes.
Yes, so he's opening a new one in the spooky house that we saw before. And he needs actors to work there for the night because he has 2 reporters who are coming to do a write-up about the place. And he's like, I'll give you some money, come and be spooky.
This raises the first for me of many questions about the haunted house attraction economy. He spent a lot of money on the haunted house.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to open tomorrow. That's why the reporters are coming tonight. He is just getting around to hiring his actors.
It's a small team, he's once he's done with all of the admin and setting up the incredibly complex and expensive illusions that we see later, I'm sure there's just, things passed by the wayside. And then he was like, oh, damn it, I don't have an integral part of this attraction. Yeah. So Claire sees an opportunity here and she's trying to convince the others to do it. which is insane because he's offering them $300 each. It's like $300 for a night's work. You're a struggling actor. Fucking take it, idiot.
Yes, exactly.
Claire says something which I quite like. She says, half of the best actors got their start in horror movies. Damn right they did, bitch. You're standing in front of one of them. Eventually they all agree to do it. There's a fun scene, like a scare scene, a bit of a jump scare later when Claire is Googling the house and Mrs. DeRode, or the image of Mrs. DeRode, pops out of Claire's computer screen and starts attacking her. I thought that was quite effective.
It got me.
Yeah, jump scares don't normally get me. I am a seasoned horror fan, and jump scares don't usually do anything for me because I know when they're coming. Yep. But yeah, that one was pretty good. So when the actors eventually go to Dark House, they meet Walston again, and they also meet his artistic director, Samantha, played by Megan Maureen McDonnell, who immediately takes a shine to Ariel, and that's really her only personality trait in this movie, is that she's gay.
Yeah, lesbian, somewhat predatory.
Yeah, it's she really isn't given anything else to do except leer at Ariel. And we also meet the head usher, Morton, and Jeffrey Combs keeps pronouncing it Moriton. I'm not sure if that's how that name is actually pronounced or if it's a fun eccentricity. Played by Scott White, who's actually done a huge amount of voice work, especially for video games. So Walston introduces us to the Corridor of Blood. Ooh.
It's a corridor.
Yeah, it's just a long hallway. We soon meet our first attraction, who's an evil clown. And what is his name?
Evil clown.
Oh, that is genius.
He says something like, let me introduce you to my friend. And then he looks back at them like he's about to say something really clever. And then he says, evil clown. And then the clown appears. Sorry, you're going to need more than that, Walston.
I mean, he definitely is an evil clown, but he's more of like a Joker type clown, as opposed to like your Pennywise type. The clown attacks Rudy and it seems really real. Everyone's really shocked. Like, it looks like there's blood coming out and everything. But it turns out that Walston and his IT guy have just engineered a lot of incredibly realistic-looking holograms.
This is where I really started wondering about the economics and the logistics of all this, because this does not seem cheap.
No, I mean, you can't even get those kind of holograms now. So Walston and Morton explain that there are 200 hologram projectors.
I think you'll find it's Moriton.
So I can only apologize. 200 hologram projectors around the house, and that they have sensors that can detect fear.
Infrared sensors. That sciencey, gobbledygook, fear.
I don't know much about science or technology or much of anything, but I don't know if there are things that can detect a fear response, especially something that isn't literally hooked up to your brain.
Were it a bunch of like 24 cats suspended in the rafters, that would make more sense.
Yeah,
my cat knows precisely when I definitely do not want to be leapt on, and will choose exactly that moment.
A haunted house run by cats would actually make a lot more sense.
Write that down next to Wolf Boy.
I've got a list of ideas to take to Hollywood, baby.
We're going to be rich. I have to assume that Walston is independently wealthy, like ludicrously rich, probably from an inheritance, and has just frittered away all that money on these like money pits.
It's my passion in life.
Exactly. Some things are more important than money.
Yeah, his mother's like, you've spent all of your father's inheritance. What are you going to do, Walston? And he's like, leave me, mother. This is my only joy in life.
First you got a PhD in fear. There's no call for a professor of fear, Walston.
He's made his own little diploma.
It's a college just made of like cardboard that he attended every day. Just strolled into an old fridge box.
So Morton's annoying, unfortunately. Like, I imagine that the actor is doing the best he can, but it's a combination of the cheesy dialogue that they've given the character, but also the actor's going way too hard on it.
Yes.
Yeah, like his energy is a bit off-putting.
It seems like he knows he's only going to be in the film for a relatively limited period of time. Hashtag spoiler alert, and is just determined to make the most of it.
Yeah, there's a sort of cocaine energy to him, which I don't really enjoy. Walston takes everybody into the basement to look at the big computer that controls.
The big computer.
It really is just a big computer. It's sort of like one whole wall that's taken up by blinking lights. It sort of looks like, you know, when they would predict what computers would look like back in the 50s.
Yes.
We also meet Harris, who's our surly IT guy, played by Michael Albala. So Claire keeps having visions of the children of the house being abused by Mrs. DeRode. So we're obviously...
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's great. The scenes of Mrs. DeRode abusing the children is actually a bit upsetting. I know that that's probably not what happened, but it does make it look as if the actress is really hitting those kids, and I didn't like it.
Yeah, it's the sound.
Yeah, so we get the idea that Mrs. DeRode was, a kind of religious zealot who was forcing these children to learn their Bible and pray every day and stuff like that. There's also a fun scene of Claire and Lily when they're getting changed into their costumes for the night, and they just sit on the bed having a little chat about self-harm and antidepressants while Lily is just sitting there in her underwear.
Yes.
Just girl things. Yeah, that's what
Who
girls
amongst us hasn't?
That's what girls do.
Yeah.
We get mostly undressed before we start, comparing antidepressants. Actually, you know what? Saying that's actually probably more accurate than you think.
Just expose your sort of darkest, most vulnerable secrets while braiding each other's hair in your undies.
There was definitely on one of the last dates I went on, there was actually a really good moment where the date and I both realized we were on the same antidepressant medication. I felt it really brought us together, So here's a little clip that I enjoyed of Wollstone kind of giving the actors a pep talk on fear and why fear is fun and interesting. And it's also, I guess, a little bit of a good explainer as to why people like horror movies as well.
The stimulation of terror, the quickening of the blood, the rapid breath of anticipation, the activation of the fight or flight response are all part of our sustenance. Human beings seek danger and the resulting fear because it's what makes us truly alive.
Oh, God, preach it, Wollstone. Oh,
Feel the fear. So often the glorious rush of fear can only be obtained by risking life and limb. But throughout human history, we happy few, we entertainers, we have been charged with providing the release of that fear in a safe and harmless way. We are the merchants of adrenaline in a civilized world. Through us, people can face their worst fears and live to tell the tale. Through us, they can die 1,000 deaths and truly live.
This guy loves his work.
Impress those reporters tonight. Be proud. You're in a horror show. Know your lines well. Perform them with passion. And above all, always leave them screaming.
This feels like it exists at least in part because we've got Jeffrey Combs, we've got a bit of a name actor. He's going to come in and ham it up. Let's give him something to really sink his teeth into, and wrote this monologue that I don't know if it has to be there, but it's it's making the most of what you've got.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're going to have Jeffrey Combs playing this eccentric character, you've got to give him a big speech at some point.
Exactly.
He does sell it and he's having fun. So we cut to Harris in the basement and we get our first death, of which there will be many.
Mm-hmm.
So he realizes his computer has a virus and a spooky face starts appearing in the coding, I guess.
I guess.
It's Mrs. DeRode, and she explodes the screen and kills him. I love how computer stuff looks in movies, because it's always so silly. It's never anything that would ever appear on it. The technology is so weird. This
feels like an artifact of the 90s when people were making movies about the internet and how spooky that all was, like the net or Johnny Mnemonic.
Yeah.
Before people had a really good understanding of it, it was all quite new. And so you could kind of just do whatever you wanted and people would roll with it. By 2009, people had a better understanding of this stuff.
Yeah, especially when you get a virus in your computer, it kind of just
That's
runs.
also a ghost.
Maybe it's the ghost that makes it look that way. Because normally, if I get a virus, my computer just runs like shit, and I can't even open I can't even open a GIF or anything.
It doesn't explode on you.
Not usually, but it does on Harris, and
Harris.
So Mrs. DeRode is in the system now. She's a ghost in the machine. So the reporters have come to the house to do their write up for whatever reason.
This again is where I started wondering about the haunted house economy. There are reviewers dedicated to this. There are like rivalries. There's other haunted houses they've seen that are better. Like which publications have a dedicated haunted house beat?
No, I'm not going to cover the carnival fair. I only do haunted house stories.
You can take your hayride shit and give it to the work experience kid.
Hey boss, I've got a scoop on a ghost train. Get the fuck out of here. The show can truly begin now. And I'm not exactly sure on how the technology of this house works because I think it's Rudy. He's like the first person we meet as part of the show. And he turns into a holographic swarm of bats.
Yes.
But like, how do you make a flesh and blood person turn into a hologram? Or did they like somehow manage to program the actors into the program of the show?
Because even if you can program a hologram of bats, where did Rudy go?
Yes, exactly. In fairness, I don't understand holograms. So this film may be bang on the money and I just don't know it.
Yeah. Also, halfway through the film, they start saying holographs. I don't know if you noticed.
No, I did notice. I noticed that they used hologram and holograph pretty interchangeably. I don't know if there is a difference, but it was distracting because I don't think they knew if there was a difference either.
Yeah, exactly.
So we go back down the corridor of blood and we meet, I don't know what this was meant to be. I guess she was like a spooky, long nail vampire lady.
Somewhat inspired by like the Ring Girl and zombie films and stuff, but with just really long pointy nails.
Yeah.
The nails are really the thing.
Yeah, I don't mind her design. Like her character design I think is pretty interesting. I think in general the character design for most of the spooky illusions in this isn't bad.
And like a knight at one point.
Yeah, there's a couple of like medieval characters, you know, the scariest period of history. So she kills Morton, but like for real. And everyone else doesn't realize it's for real.
Quite gruesome.
Yeah, it's great. Claire is like a tour guide for the house. Like she's not a character in the haunted house attraction. She's like guiding.
I think she refers to herself as a fear guide.
But she's also not good at it. Like in the story, she's not good at it.
Exactly. She's super unenthused. Let's go to the next room.
Yeah. Quickly before he comes back. Like, hey, Claire, maybe you're not a good actor. Yeah, the rest of the scares aren't bad. They go into a room where Eldon is playing a mortician. He's having a lot of fun. Like both the actor and the character in the film are having a lot of fun with that.
I enjoyed
character.
that part. Yeah.
I would argue. I wish that the actor who played Eldon had gotten more screen time, where it wasn't just him reacting to people jibing him about being smart. Like
the energy that's in that scene, where he's playing it kind of goofy and the whole thing is a little bit goofy, I wish the rest of the film had a bit more of.
A little bit goofier in like a fun way and not a cheap way.
In that sort of Sam Raimi-ish sort of way, where we know it's a horror film, but that doesn't preclude having fun with it and hamming it up a little bit.
Yeah, I think
Combs gets it.
Combs gets it. He always gets it. And he can get it, baby. Ayo.
Ayo.
So Mrs. DeRode is wreaking havoc in the mainframe. We keep flashing back to like chaotic screens that say things like firewall breached and
virus detected,
Trojan horse detected, computer words.
Maybe when you introduce ghosts into the world of computers, that's exactly what would happen.
I've never seen a ghost take over a computer, so I'm not going to say one way or the other what would have happened. But I also wonder if the ghost is controlling the computer. I imagine that the ghost wouldn't feel the need to warn everybody that there is a Trojan horse in the computer. She's got bigger fish to fry. So because Mrs. DeRode is now overtaking all of the holographic illusions, she kills the male reporter with acid to the face, you know, as one of the illusions. Yes. And the female reporter runs off scared so quickly that she falls down the stairs to her death.
Yes, she hits her head on the railing and breaks her neck.
That'll do it. A little goof here is that after that actress falls downstairs, after she lands at the bottom of the stairs, Rudy, who is sitting in like the parlor or the sitting room, whatever it is, he runs up to her and says, oh, Miss Cummings, which is the actress's name and not the character's name.
Really?
Yes.
I did not register that.
There's a fun little moment where Walston and Samantha are freaking out about this dead body that's now in their room.
Yes, Miss Cummings has become Miss Goings.
Oh, so droll.
You invited me here. Okay.
He's like, Walston is like, oh no, it's such bad publicity. Come on, we need to get her up onto the couch. And so him and Samantha decide to lift her up and put her on the couch. And because Walston is still holding his purely aesthetic cane, he doesn't decide to just put it on the ground while he uses two hands to pick up the woman. He puts it in his mouth.
Classic Combs.
Yeah, he's just like, I'm not going to put this on the ground because I don't need it. So he just like holds this giant cane in his mouth. Chomp.
And then they're like, once they put her on the couch, they like put a blanket on her face or something.
Well,
like,
yeah, they cover her up.
But like, what was the point of putting her on the couch? They're not going to prop her up in some kind of like Weekend at Miss Cummings scenario.
Yeah, they're like, you know what? That's for future us to worry about.
Yeah, at least no one's going to trip on her.
Yeah, I think they just cover her up because it's like corpses are such a bummer, you know, like they're trying to sit there and just have a drink and you don't want to be reminded that someone just died. So everyone ends up back in the lobby except for Bruce, who gets killed in an Iron Maiden, with like one of those, if you don't know what it is, it's a like medieval torture device where it's like a coffin, but with like spikes on the inside. And when you close the coffin, it smushes the person inside like a grilled cheese.
Yeah, it's not pleasant. If you see an Iron Maiden, run to the hills.
I was going to make an Iron Maiden joke. Damn it. All right, you get this one. But if a priest named Judas pops up anywhere in this movie, that's my turn.
There's a mega amount of death.
I hope this didn't happen on the Sabbath because it would be a black day indeed.
Sure.
No.
We could move on. That option is available to us.
No.
Bruce dies in the Iron Maiden. It's quite the relief because he was insufferable.
Yes, thankfully he wasn't in it for very much.
There's a thing that happens sometimes where screenwriters think they're writing like a funny comic relief character, and what they're doing is just writing someone who is horrible to everybody constantly and like cannot have a real conversation.
Yeah, I think sometimes in writing the comedic relief, they just go, what if we write a misogynist who doesn't know how to interact with people?
What if we wrote like the Jamie Kennedy part from Scream, but significantly less funny and without any of the self-awareness that makes him like interesting within the film?
Yeah. So they can't get any mobile phone signal and the landline is down apparently, which leads to this fun little exchange.
I'm off network.
Me too. Shit!
Boston, call the police on the landline.
I already tried that. The lines are down. We have some sort of strange interference going on.
Fucking interference with staying alive.
Yeah, that's a bit silly. Quite silly.
And you're supposed to be the smart one, Eldon.
Yeah, get better quips. So a medieval soldier starts attacking Eldon with a mace, and Rudy is like, I gotta get you out of here, to Claire. Like, bitch, everyone's under threat here.
Only Claire,
Yeah.
He could say, let's get out of here.
Yeah, and they just run off together. Like, there's like 4 different scenes after this that start or end with Rudy just grabbing Claire by the arm and pulling her out of shot.
Yeah.
Like, she's just kind of getting dragged along wherever Rudy decides to go.
Pinballing around the house.
Everyone's reactions to the fight between the medieval soldier and Eldon are insane because no one is helping him. There's 4 whole ass other people still in this room and they're just standing there going, no, Eldon, no. Like, take him down.
It's like when Bruce is in the Iron Maiden and the executioner guy is doing the thumbs up, thumbs down, should I do it, should I not? And they're just standing and no one's stepping forward to, like, just give the guy a push. Get a broom or something. Just like, nudge him out of the way.
just like, you know, like with a cat, just spray some water on him and he'll go,
Get out of here. Grab one of the ones from the ceiling.
Yeah, he's a medieval soldier. I'm sure if you like shot a flashlight in his eyes, he'd freak out and collapse. Yeah. Walston's reaction, or perhaps Jeffrey Combs's reaction, is funny though, because I don't know if it was on purpose or not, and I don't know if this is like Combs's decision to play it like this, or if they decided that the character would react this way. But Walston doesn't seem to care as much about this fight, where one of his holograms is physically attacking a human person.
Which suggests that he's seen this before.
Yeah, he's just kind of like, I have no idea what's happening.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, Eldon is decapitated. As grim and upsetting as this is, Samantha sees this as her big chance with Ariel.
Yeah, that's right. Everybody just grabs the person that they want to sleep with.
Well, you know, when you're facing death, I guess you kind of go, well, it's now or never. I'm going to get it before I get it. Yeah, so she grabs Ariel, no one else, and she goes, come with me if you want to live, and drags her off to the bathroom, where there's apparently an unlocked window, which leads to this exchange.
How do you know I'm not living yet? Because you're too cute. So if you get me out of here alive, so I'm going to have to do you? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, like, Samantha's a creep.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's the only thing we learn about Samantha, is that she's gay in this movie. Like, she's the artistic director, but she's had nothing else to say or do in this apart from be lecherous. And even now, they are faced with death, and she's still like, I'm going to get to fuck somebody. So Wollstone has the idea that Harris is somehow responsible for all of this. He seems to think that Harris has, like, the ability to make holograms solid.
Wollstone needs to pay more attention to what holograms are and how they work before he invests so much money. Read the Wikipedia entry on holograms/holographs.
Was Wikipedia around in 2009, or did you still have to use those, like, leather-bound encyclopedia sets that you would buy?
I'm sure he could ask Jeeves, what is hologram?
Yeah, his butler, Jeeves, who knows everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeeves, a cup of tea, please. And what is a hologram? It is lasers and light, sir. But there is a fun scene of Jeffrey Combs just freaking the fuck out, trying to get down into Harris's basement.
Yeah.
He gets a bit suddenly unhinged, which is quite fun.
He could do that with the best of them.
Oh, he's up there. He's up there with the freaking the fuck out gang.
Oh, yeah.
So back in the lesbian bathroom, the ladies have almost made it out. They're about to get out. But then this is one of the lesser illusions, I thought, is the goth chick.
Just a girl?
Yeah, the goth chick that appears out of the bathroom and starts spewing very poor CGI green poisonous gas out of her mouth. And Ariel and Samantha
they're just
choke
gassed.
to death.
It's kind of an anticlimax for like quite a gory, almost slashery type movie where we've seen people stabbed in the chest or like being decapitated. It's all very impactful and like lots of fake blood, and then they're just gassed.
Yeah, and I don't know who that, like, what is that illusion? Like, it's literally just, it just looks like an emo chick from like 2006. Like, she's just got like, dark black hair and kind of dark eyes.
She's no more scary than the emo chick who is a character in the film, like one of our heroes.
Oh, she's no more scary than I was when I used to have a MySpace page. Some of us went through a big emo phase, all right? And we wore a lot of red eyeliner and skinny black jeans.
No judgment from me.
They decide that their best bet is to find the fuse box, which is apparently, you can shut off all the technology in the house with this fuse box. And guess where the fuse box is? It's right at the end of the corridor of blood.
Not the corridor of blood.
Rudy volunteers to do this. For whatever reason, he says something like, "It should be me," but why? Why should it be you?
It should be Wollstone, the guy whose fault this is.
Yeah, he knows the wires. Like, he's telling him how to do it. Like, he's Billy, don't be a hero, and he almost finishes the job too. But he is taken out by your friend and mine, Evil Clown, who axes him in the back.
Evil.
There is a fun interlude of the clown like dancing with the axe before he before he kills him. That's actually quite good. Gabriel Rissa is the actor who plays Evil Clown. Obviously he only has a couple of scenes, but yeah, he's pretty spooky. I kind of like the I like his movement, kind of traipsing down the hallway the corridor towards towards Rudy. Yeah, it's quite effective.
That's a big tick on the Evil Clown.
In classic horror movie fashion, they decide to split up because they're fucking idiots.
There's just a lot of business with like doors and keys, and I kind of lost track of the geography or where everyone was.
There's a bit of a to-do because Wollstone finds the keys that he was looking for before. He was annoyed because he couldn't get into the basement where Harris was.
Yes.
And then he realized he had the keys in his pocket.
In his pocket.
Again, he's not across everything, Wollstone, perhaps.
No.
So they decide to split, and Lily is also mad at Claire. She's very angry at Claire, to the point where this squabble will overtake the life or death situation. So Lily believes that it's Claire's fault that the insane holograms are killing everybody.
Because Claire encouraged them to take this job.
I don't think that her experience means that she would know somehow that the holograms would go crazy and kill everybody.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, I don't think that's on Claire.
Even if that's a concern of yours, Lily, worry about it once you're out.
Yeah.
Park it. Just put a pin in that one. Get the fuck out. Take it up later.
Teamwork makes the dream work, all right? Let's just get out of the dark house. So Lily goes off on her own, and she's immediately killed by...
Immediately.
Yeah, by Spooky Dead Soldier.
That classic horror character, Soldier.
Yeah, I guess he's meant to be. He's kind of dressed as Vietnam soldiers. He's styled in that way. She's the only one who bothers with a pre-death exit quip.
Yeah, she is stoic to the end.
She keeps her dry humor right until death, because right before the soldier shoots her dead, she says,
"War is hell."
He's a soldier. Well done,
and
though.
that's otherwise
Bruce,
maybe
though, when he was in the Iron Maiden, any manner of like heavy metal music related puns he could have dropped, as we demonstrated earlier with our string of non-stop gold.
Walston and Claire head for the basement, and Walston is killed by, I guess, zombies?
Something, yeah.
Yeah.
For such a big character and such a big moment, his death is a little
underwhelming.
Half-assed. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just kind of, he's dragged off into another room by, well, we have to assume as zombies because they're kind of people with blood on their face. And that's what zombies usually look like in horror movies.
A little bit shambly.
Yeah, and he's dragged off into another room. We don't even see his death. We just hear it, which is annoying, but bye-bye, Jeffrey. Good work, sweetie.
See you later. Well done.
So now it's just Claire.
Final girl.
She beats the shit out of the big computer with a bat of some sort, and the zombies disappear. Yay! I guess everything's fine now.
Great.
Claire goes up into the attic because she thinks that there's a way out there. And she sees Mrs. DeRode. So this is where we have our final confrontation between Claire and Mrs. DeRode. I didn't want to mention it up until now because this is obviously where we see Mrs. DeRode properly, as opposed to just flashes of her face here and there.
Sure.
Mrs. DeRode is played by Diane Salinger, who is fucking great in this. Like, apart from Jeffrey Combs, she is the best thing in this movie, I would argue.
She goes for it.
Yeah, she's having so much fun and she's so unhinged. She's got a great, big, scary scream.
Oh, she's got like that big hair. Everything about her is just like every lever is set to like 110%.
Yeah, she does some really good like face work and physicality. Yeah. She's genuinely quite frightening, and she's very good at this type of character. You might know her as Esther Cobblepot, the Penguin's mother in Batman Returns.
Oh, that's a good bit of triv.
Yeah, love a bit of triv. For Deep Space Nine fans, she also did a couple of episodes as a character called Lupaza, if you remember her.
Cool.
Yeah, she's great. So Mrs. DeRode explains that she was damned to hell after her death because she let Claire get away. Because that's why you go to hell, because you didn't kill enough people that you were supposed to?
Yeah, not damned to hell for murdering a bunch of children. I feel like someone on the other side has really like given her a bit of a bum steer. She heard damned to hell and kind of, all right, nodded. I'm with you so far. And then got the next bit a bit muddled. Damned to hell, murdering children. Didn't murder enough children.
Yeah, I didn't murder all of them. That's my problem. Satan likes his numbers.
Gotta hit those KPIs.
Yeah, Satan's human resources manager just sitting there being like, look, we really want to let you into hell. You're doing really good work, but we can't have you slacking off. You've really got to kill all of those children. So while hiding in the pantry, Claire has a bit of a flashback, and I mean, I'm sure this was obvious. But it turns out that Claire was one of the foster kids.
See, we were led to believe that she was the little girl who wandered into the house and witnessed the aftermath of the murders, but no,
she was one of the many foster children who was tired of their abusive foster mother constantly trying to drill them with religious teachings, and they decide to burn her big Bible. It was a big fancy leather Bible, and this obviously sends Mrs. DeRode into a fit of hysteria, and she attacks and murders all of the children, but Claire manages to hide and escape because Mrs. DeRode was doing the whole look ma, no hands in the garbage disposal.
Well done, baby Claire. I actually thought that little switcheroo, the sort of mistaken identity of who Claire actually is, was moderately clever.
Yeah, I think it's
I had a little moment of like, oh, okay, great.
Good job, movie. But I mean, annoyingly though, back in the present, we almost get a big confrontation scene. Because Claire and Mr. DeRode are yelling at each other for a bit. They're screaming their heads off at each other. And then Claire runs towards her with a big knife. She's finally going to end it all. And then blackout, stabbing sounds, and nothing.
Yeah, that's right.
That is so piss weak, guys. Like, but I mean, I can see why they did it. you know.
It's done to set up the switcheroony.
Yeah. So when we cut out of
double switcheroony.
It's a switch on a switch.
It's a switcheroonie. But like with a 2.
So when we cut out of the blackout, we cut to Claire, who's staring blankly towards us, the viewer, and stabbing the knife into the floor. No sign of Mrs. DeRoche. Yes. She's just sitting there muttering to herself, which is how we know she's crazy now.
She's crazy.
Mm-hmm. The cops find her and take her away. Thankfully,
Sergeant Exposition steps in to fill us in on what we were supposed to have been looking at just then.
There has to be a denouement, so it might as well be 2 jaded cops talking very casually about this incredibly violent, traumatic case.
Which, if you want to be generous, can be read as an homage to Psycho.
If you wanted to be generous?
The same way. If you wanted to be extremely generous. Which ends with the scene of the police officers discussing the case. What we've just been, what we have just seen up until that point.
I'll allow it. So it turns out it was Claire all along. The cops are like, yeah, Claire.
So crazy.
Yeah, Claire went crazy from being back in the house and she killed everybody. I know it seemed like it was the holograms, but with all of the confusion of everything, it just seemed like it was. It just seemed like it was a medieval soldier and evil clown doing it. It was actually Claire.
It was Claire who spews poison gas. Claire crept inside a computer monitor and exploded it all over Harris's face.
We see a couple who we haven't met before who are visiting the place.
Yes.
And it turns out that the woman of this couple is the little girl at the start who discovered the bodies.
The one we were led to believe Claire was. It did not help me that this woman actually looked quite a bit like Claire.
Well, I think that this woman and Claire must have the same therapist because someone obviously told her that it would also be good for her to go back to the house and, confront her demons.
That guy actually tells everybody to go to that house. He has a second job as a real estate agent. He's been trying to shift it for 14 years. And if he gets enough eyeballs on it, someone's going to take it.
Yeah, it's going to be like, I know that this house is connected to one of the greatest traumatic experiences of my life, but look at this staircase. I mean...
Oh, this hardwood floors.
Oh, and you can't beat the location. I mean, you can't afford anything in LA for this price. It's a fixer-upper. So everything seems hunky-dory. The girl is like, I feel a lot better coming here. But then doors start slamming, stuff starts happening, and we hear Mrs. DeRoche scream. Seems like it's not all over, gang.
No, it wasn't Claire.
Oh, another switch.
Oh, my goodness.
Switcheroo 3.
Okay, fine.
Sorry.
If it makes you feel better to say that.
We end on Claire in a mental health facility. So she's, saying that she didn't do it. And then Mrs. DeRoche is still out there. And her blood-curdling scream takes us out to the credits. It's a good scream. I'll give her that.
Great scream.
And that's Dark House.
And that is Dark House.
In all its glory.
We've all just been Dark Housed. And we'll never be the same.
A fun thing I saw in the credits is, I don't know if this is in lots of credits and I just haven't watched enough credits in my time, but there's a line in the credits that says, no religious artifacts and or texts were damaged or destroyed during the making of this film.
Well, there's obviously a film where characters are burning Bibles. So I suppose it is natural to worry that someone might see that and wonder how it was filmed and whether any sacrilege was performed.
I mean, is that a thing that would bother people? Like imagine someone watching a film and being like, wait a minute, that's a real Bible and they just ripped up the pages. Hey. Maybe someone who thinks that everything that happens in movies happens in real life.
Yeah.
Quick, honey, shut down your computer. Something's in the mainframe. Also, when looking in the credits, I realized that Natalie Combs, Jeffrey Combs' youngest daughter, is in the credits, but only as blonde girl. And I cannot for the life of me figure out who that was in this film because it is too vague of a credit.
Yeah, so it's either one of the girls on bikes at the start or one of the Bible-burning kids in the flashback. There's a bunch of children running around. This
film also won Best Horror Film at Shriekfest in 2009.
Wow.
Yeah.
That makes me shriek with surprise.
There's some good things in this film.
Yes.
But I fear that the bad things outweigh it just slightly.
There's some interesting ideas. I think the protagonist switcheroo, like the way that the prologue sets you up to think you're following one particular journey, but you're really following another is moderately interesting. Like I said, that was a moment of like, there's a couple of like decent sort of visuals in the kill moments and stuff, but Yeah, a lot of the logic of it around like the way the ghost interacts with the holograms and just the timeline of what's happening, and a lot of the A to B to C gets very muddled.
There's just a difference in between the story and the script, because I think the story is a really good idea, and I think that the shape of the story is really interesting, but I think that the script lets it down. Obviously, the reliance on like those really outdated character tropes, and the kind of dialogue that they have, like there's just something that makes a movie so cheap is not having that realistic character dialogue. It's like, oh no,
it's a concept versus execution thing. Like a few more passes at that script, a few more drafts, polish it up.
A thing I did really like is the set design. To be honest, I wasn't expecting a low budget film to have such good set design for the house, and you know the
Dark House.
The Dark House, that one.
The titular Dark House.
The very same. Yeah, a lot of the rooms, you know, whether it's set up as one of the attraction rooms or not, I think it's quite fun, and it definitely looks like the kind of haunted house attraction that you would go to and maybe pay upwards of $20 for. And, you know, most importantly, Jeffrey Combs is having fun, I think. I hope he had fun. I mean, he seems to be enjoying...
I'm sure he did.
Yeah, he seems to be enjoying the role. You know, he's got his little cane, and, you know, he's got his love of fear.
Fear.
Yes.
After all, he is the professor of fear.
Yeah, he's especially the way he swans into the actors class at the start, like just waltzes in, not an ounce of timidity on this character at all. Also, the line as Walston is leaving that scene, when he says, "Play on, players," apparently improvised by Jeffrey Combs, which
fantastic.
Oh, yeah, he's great. Yeah, and
he just saw an opportunity when he was combsing over the script.
Nah,
Once again, I need to emphasize, you invited me here.
I love your work. I can't deny it. The cast are very definitely varied in like the quality of their performance versus the script, because some people like Combs or Salinger are doing pretty well with the not great script, whereas some of the younger actors definitely probably less experienced in making a character their own and making it a bit more interesting than the text dictates.
In some ways, that's an unavoidable consequence of having younger or early career actors sharing scenes with, you know, a veteran like Combs.
It's impossible to compare someone who's only done a handful of feature films versus someone who's been acting for 40 years. I'm definitely not comparing. I'm trying not to compare them to that, and trying to take those younger actors on their own merits. Yeah, look, I would personally recommend giving Dark House a look. I think it's interesting enough to sate your curiosity. Obviously, Combs is having fun if you're a Combs completionist.
There are a few moments where I was genuinely surprised or impressed at some bit of design or a performance moment. So it's certainly not completely without its merit.
Yeah, well, thank you, Dan, for talking about Dark House and for watching it.
Oh, thank you for inviting me to. It was fun. I have to admit, I'm not a mega Jeffrey Combs, like Combsiac. I'm not a completionist. There's a lot of films on that IMDb I haven't seen. So it was nice to have an excuse to watch something I would not otherwise have checked out.
I hope that that's part of what this podcast does for people, is not only just talking about Jeffrey Combs, obviously, but also just generally talking about films that, you know, they may not make a lot of big time movie lists or anything like that, but, you know, just because something is small, low budget, not very well known, doesn't mean it's not like good or interesting.
There are very few Avengers in it, but that, you know, that doesn't matter.
Yeah. I actually don't think a Hemsworth was in this at all.
Oh, is it really a movie then? Like legally?
All right, Dan, anything to plug?
Just living life, man. Just get out there.
You're plugging the concept of engaging in your community?
Live, laugh, love. That's what I'm here to plug. No, you can watch 3 seasons of The Deep, the show for which I oftentimes write, on Netflix. That's something. That's fun. It's a bit of fun. It's an animated action adventure series that's especially good if you have or are children.
I have a lot of child listeners, a whole bevy of them. They're all my foster children.
Yeah, there you go. I do have something to plug, it turns out. Daniel John Hall on Twitter, which is all spelled as you'd expect it to be, with no punctuation or anything. Can I plug one more thing?
Yes, you may. You may plug whatever you please.
So follow Reanimates Pod on Twitter.
Oh, I've heard they're a good podcast. I wonder if the person who does that podcast is really interesting and attractive. Well, Dan is very correct. You should follow @ReanimatesPod on Twitter and Instagram. There's a Tumblr as well, if you're into that sort of thing. The Linktree
Tumble
site.
away.
Love a tumble, especially down a big hill. And, of course, all of the episodes also end up on YouTube, if that's how you like to listen to podcasts. I know some people do. I do sometimes.
Weird.
Is it weird, or is it the way of the future, Daniel?
Oh, I'm very old, so if that's what the kids are doing, I'll take your word for it.
You are old. I can barely see your face outside of those big, grey, bushy eyebrows.
My trademark.
You're as old as the hills. Soon to die. I'm so glad this was the last thing you did.
I got dark. Dark house dark.